The NIGMA empire ignored our warning. Humanity erased them from the StarsHFY. The signal packet did not contain an ultimatum. It was a sequence of coordinates that had stopped moving. Inside the High Council amphitheater, the tracking logs dropped to absolute zero as space contracted. 42 capital warships, the entire vanguard armada of the SciFi Ascendancy, had vanished from the strategic grid. No transmissions, no signatures, no wreckage. The main hololith flickered once, turning the vibrant blue indicators of the fleet into a uniform, flat crimson. The telemetry logs from that sector are still locked in our main terminal archive. If you want to know what our monitoring grids found next, stay on this line. 32 cycles earlier, the air in the basalt chamber smelled of recycled nitrogen and the sharp sulfur tang of overtorqued asteroid acceleration coils. Sovereign Malakarjan sat on his raised dais, his obsidian glass armor plates clicking with a dry, rhythmic sound as he shifted his 3-meter frame. Across from him, behind a simple walnut desk that looked absurdly fragile against the black stone floor, sat Director Harlan Finch. The umbral fringe is a sovereign corridor, Malakarjan said, his voice vibrating through the floorboards. He shoved a heavy glass data slate across the wood. Your species has 72 hours to clear the sector. This is your final notice. Finch did not look at the slate. He was busy using a faded cloth to wipe down a smooth glass surface on his silver spectacles. We placed 1,400 beacons along that borderline, Sovereign. They use zero active reactor power to broadcast their warnings, but they are very clear. They say do not cross. They are unarmored plastic markers, the Sovereign spat. They are dust. Out on the perimeter, Captain Borndrax ran his vanguard fleet directly against the human boundary lines. From the sensor array of my diplomat's terminal, I watched his heavy cruisers line up their target profiles. Burn them, Borndrax ordered over the open military channel. The fleet's localized plasma fire lanced out, striking the first row of human markers. But instead of melting, the unarmored beacons absorbed the thermal energy, glowing with a dull internal heat. On my terminal, a strange subspace carrier wave began to pulse. The destroyed beacons were not transmitters, they were stable charged receivers. I bypassed the diplomatic comms and overrode the main tactical feed to the Sovereign's dais. The human signal packet is changing. The fleet needs to halt. They are pulling power from our own plasma fire. Advance, Malakarjan roared into his transmitter. They are omitting their weight. They have no ships to meet us. At Outpost Sentinel-4, thousands of light-years away, Commander Tamara Sterling did not look at a view screen. She stood before a physical gray wall panel. With a steady hand, she reached out and pulled a safety-wired metal switch down into the lock position. The wire snapped with a clean metallic ping. The 1,400 beacons did not explode, they folded. The telemetry system registered a sudden spatial displacement weight that defied our sensor limits, collapsing the local hyperspace corridors into an artificial gravitational dead zone. Borndrax's fleet did not have time to turn. The dark matter displacement nodes engaged instantly, wrapping the entire vanguard in a localized gravity well that compressed their warp drives into scrap. The tactical hololith altered its coordinates automatically. The screen stopped tracking the border. It zoomed out, skipping past the dead fleet, past the outer rim, and centered directly on our own unshielded industrial capital worlds. 30 human stealth dreadnoughts, vessels that had never appeared on any Imperial intelligence log, dropped out of real-time cloaks. They did not fire. They simply hung in low orbit over our 3 core systems, their shadows cutting off the sun. We didn't build a wall, Finch said, his voice terrifyingly calm in the sudden silence of the amphitheater. We didn't build a shield, we built an execution box. The ventilation hum became the only sound left in the room. Malakarjan's crimson error logs cascaded down his personal display screen, reflecting off the highly polished basalt floor. I dropped my physical recording staff onto the stone floor where it cracked in two. Nobody looked up. Finch stood up, he placed his silver spectacles into his breast pocket, picked up his leather briefcase and pulled the brass latches shut. The dry snapping sound echoed off the stone walls. He did not ask for a signature. He simply turned and walked out of the silent cavern, leaving the Ascendancy frozen in checkmate.